Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're really jumping into a massive, and I mean massive, topic.
The big one.
It's a very specific, very high stakes area. We're talking about the world of master natural skincare formulation. So we're moving past the marketing and getting right into the technical nuts and bolts.
Exactly. We're looking at how clean beauty brands, especially those using contract manufacturing, actually go from just an idea to a compliant, market-ready product.
And we've got a great stack of technical guys and research here. The mission today is to really give you that operational shortcut.
That's the goal. If you want to succeed in this space, you have to understand the critical workflow. You have to know what it takes to minimize that lead time.
That's the absolute key. Because our sources are crystal clear on this. Clean labels, sustainable sourcing. These aren't niche preferences anymore.
No, not at all. They're the cost of entry. It's just the baseline expectation for any consumer walking down the aisle.
So what does that baseline demand in terms of workflow?
It demands structure. It all starts with a really ironclad concept brief. And you move quickly into targeted formulation, robust stability and compatibility testing, and then a really rigorous regulatory review.
And only then can you actually get to the launch.
Only then can you assemble that launch readiness package. That's all your documentation, your shelf life validation. If you skip a step, believe me, the penalty on your timeline is just massive.
Okay, let's unpack this. I want to start with the ingredients, the actives, the stuff that really defines a modern, clean product.
Good place to start.
And we have to address the one that has completely redefined anti-aging for natural formulators. Bakuchiol.
Ah, yes. What's so insightful about bakuchiol's rise isn't just that it's, a plant extract. It's that it solves a fundamental technical headache that came with traditional retinol.
Okay, so tell us, what was that headache?
Well, retinol is notoriously photounstable and irritating. It often requires, nighttime-only use and these really complex stabilization systems.
Right, the classic problem.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But bakuchiol, by contrast, offers comparable anti-aging signals. It supports collagen, reduces visible signs of aging.
But without the irritation.
But with a substantially gentler irritancy profile. And, this is crucial, it's stable in sunlight.
That has to be the real formulation game changer, isn't it? It just removes that barrier to using it day and night.
It does. It allows clean brands to offer really high performance without that typical, adaptation period.
Dr. Alina Morales is quoted in our material here, and she emphasizes that this balance of efficacy and tolerability is exactly why it's become such a clean beauty staple.
Performance without compromise.
That's the promise, absolutely. And beyond anti-aging, formulators are also intensely focused on high performance, plant-based hydration boosters, and antioxidants.
Things that work in those lightweight emulsions everyone wants.
Precisely. And one of the most compelling substitutions here is tremella polysaccharide.
The mushroom-derived ingredient, right? It's supposed to rival the gold standard. It really can. Its hydrating properties are directly comparable to hyaluronic acid in certain applications. It's superb at improving moisture retention and boosting skin suppleness. Perfect for those lighter, fast-absorbing serums.
We're also seeing a lot more sophistication coming from the sea. Ingredients like fucoidan and alginates from seaweed.
And they're not just basic texturizers anymore. They're multifunctional.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, fucoidan, for example, is valued for its potent antioxidant capacity and anti-inflammatory support. Alginates contribute film-forming benefits, which help stabilize the texture and provide skin barrier support.
So it's always about finding ingredients that can do more than one job.
Always. Which, dovetails perfectly with the rise of ethnobotanicals.
Things like shiitake mushroom extract, right? For novel claims like brightening or barrier support.
Exactly. And this is where the brand story really meets supply chain reality. Formulators prefer these multifunctional botanicals. If one ingredient can offer antioxidant support, hydration, and texture enhancement, that's a massive win.
It streamlines the INCI list.
It streamlines the INCI list and reinforces that clean label promise.
But if you're sourcing these novel ethnobotanicals, what does that demand from your supply chain?
It demands meticulous due diligence. The sources are very clear on this. When you're sourcing unique botanicals, the priority immediately shifts to traceability.
You have to prove it's what you say it is.
You have to validate claims of fair trade or responsible wild harvests or sustainable cultivation. It stops being just a formula decision, and it becomes a crucial part of the brand's risk assessment.
Okay, so we've got our star ingredients. Now for the really heavy lift, holding it all together. How do you manage the instability of oil and water systems without traditional synthetic stabilizers?
This is where formulation science truly earns its pay. Natural emulsifiers are functional, but they introduce a lot of complexity. They often have much tighter constraints: pH, temperature, oil percentages.
And the material highlights specific blended systems. What are the common ones?
The modern approach relies on complementary blends. Most commonly, you'll see sugar esters, various glycerol esters, and lecithin.
Okay, walk us through those.
So sugar esters, like sucrose esters, are highly valued because they have a favorable hydrophilic-lipophilic balance,
Okay.
FHLB value, and they tolerate a wide pH range, which gives you flexibility.
And the others?
Glycerol stearate citrate is often used for emollients and as a secondary stabilizer. And then there's lecithin from phospholipids, which is excellent for skin feel. But you have to be careful. It can sometimes impart color or a slight odor,
Which can be a challenge in a pure white cream.
a big challenge, which leads to a critical insight I pulled from the sources. Combinations of these natural emulsifiers almost always outperform single ingredients. You can't just pick one and hope for the best.
That's the gospel of natural formulation, then.
It is. You're basically building a scaffold with multiple ingredients. And it requires early compatibility screening at the bench level. Because if a single emulsifier system fails during scale-up, you're looking at catastrophic phase separation.
So what are those primary failure modes you have to watch out for?
The big three are classic instability issues. Phase separation, where the oil and water just split.
The worst.
Then there's sedimentation, where particles drop out,
Right.
and oil droplet destabilization, which leads to a grainy texture.
And you have fewer sort of synthetic insurance policies to fix these things later.
Way fewer. So mitigation really focuses on precision blending. You pick emulsifier blends with complementary HLB values, you adjust the pH meticulously, and increasingly, you use microemulsion approaches to achieve thermodynamic stability without sacrificing that clean label promise.
This need for precision and early testing brings us right to the non-negotiables: safety, documentation, and regulation.
Precisely. Safety assessments like the Cosmetic Product Safety Report, the CPSR, and the EU are the absolute backbone of any credible product. They are not optional.
What makes the safety dossier for a natural product so much more complex?
It all comes down to variability. The dossier has to include full documentation on natural extracts, which, unlike a standardized synthetic, require way more data on batch variability, potential pesticide residues, trace contaminant,
And the packaging?
and you always have to include packaging compatibility. You have to prove your container isn't interacting with the formula.
Let's talk timeline. What does the stability testing rigor actually look like?
Rigor is mandatory. Standard protocols include accelerated stability studies, cycling products through extreme heat and cold light exposure, and, of course, microbial challenge tests.
And that takes time.
It does. A practical protocol involves testing at 3, 6, and 12 months at varied temperatures like 40 degrees Celsius. That data is what lets you statistically predict a 24 or 36-month shelf life.
Okay, now, the elephant in the room: preservatives. Clean beauty absolutely does not mean preservative-free.
No, it does not. And that is a constant educational challenge.
Yep.
Any water-based product must be preserved, period.
So what's the strategy?
The strategy is using broad-spectrum systems. Things like phenoxyethanol, potassium sorbate, sodium benzoate, agents with known safety profiles.
But the real battleground here is pH, isn't it?
It absolutely is. The efficacy of many of these preservatives is strongly influenced by pH. Organic acids, for example, often only work in an acidic environment.
So if your key active performs best at a different pH.
You've got a problem. You have to conduct pH-adjusted testing and design your entire system around the preservative's pH sweet spot. Otherwise, you're risking a major microbial failure.
So connecting this globally, how different are the major market regulations? This must dictate the entire R&D spend.
They're fundamentally different in their approach. In the EU, the EC 12223/2009 regulation is king. It requires a mandatory CPSR safety assessment before you can go to market. Their lists of restricted substances are extremely strict.
And the U.S.?
In the U.S., the FDA regulates safety and labeling, but it doesn't pre-approve products. The burden is on the brand to substantiate claims and safety after it's on the market. The liability risk is entirely on you.
And for other markets like the UK, Canada, Australia?
They've been updating their regulations to focus heavily on supply chain traceability, verifiable, sustainable packaging claims, and really explicit allergen and fragrance disclosures. Alignment is non-negotiable.
Let's move into our final segment then. Supply chain integrity, documentation, all that good stuff. Traceability is paramount here.
Absolutely. For ingredient sourcing, certifications like RSPO for palm-derived materials are crucial. Brands have to implement rigorous supplier qualification programs. You're assessing not just the material, but the supplier's quality systems, their social practices.
It's what prevents recalls down the line.
Exactly.
And packaging is no longer just aesthetics. It's a huge sustainability lever now.
A massive one. Consumers want PCR plastic, recyclable glass, refillable formats. But the challenge is compatibility. We've seen sources mention PCR plastic, sometimes reacting with complex natural formulas, causing discoloration or even destabilization.
So you need clear labeling, but you also need that internal testing to make sure the product and package actually work together.
Essential. And all of this has to be underpinned by quality assurance. Even small labs need to align with GMP or ISO 22716.
Why is that documentation trail so critical?
It proves consistency and prevents contamination. GMP alignment means you have thorough batch records, certificates of analysis for every single raw ingredient, and robust contamination prevention protocols. If something goes wrong, that clean, auditable trail is your only way to isolate the problem and protect the brand.
So wrapping this up, the final documentation push before launch. What's on that comprehensive checklist?
First, accurate labeling. A master INCI list mapped to every local market. Second, allergen and fragrance disclosures have to be explicit. Often that means creating fragrance-free variants. Third, and this is the legally sensitive one, claims must be rigorously substantiated.
No vague terms.
No vague terms that regulators will flag instantly. The claim has to reflect what the ingredient can actually do, supported by data.
So for anyone trying to visualize this, the whole workflow is really a structured funnel. It starts with that concept brief and moves methodically through bench trials, pilot production, all of it aimed at minimizing iteration.
Exactly. Every single step is documented, it's version controlled, and it's risk assessed. A disciplined documentation habit isn't just bureaucracy, it's the lubricant that makes the whole machine run smoothly.
So we've covered the shift to high-performance actives like bakuchiol, the formulation battle for stability, the non-negotiable regulatory testing, and the crucial role of QA. It really is a comprehensive roadmap.
It is, and as we conclude this deep dive, the sources consistently highlight the immense operational challenges here, which, it raises a critical question for every brand out there to mull over. Given that these high-performance natural ingredients are subject to huge seasonal and geographic variability, how heavily must small and mid-sized labs rely on building a diverse, sometimes higher-cost supplier base? What are the realistic cost trade-offs they have to accept in their cost of goods sold just to mitigate that raw material risk and ensure batch-to-batch consistency?
And that tension between natural variability and cost.
That's the next great frontier in formulation.
A fascinating and probably expensive problem for formulators to solve. Thank you for guiding us through this incredibly complex world.
My pleasure.
Until next time, keep digging deeper.